Hello everybody, Ray for the Drought on the McAllen Cable Network here at the Old Bowie Reservoir, and today we're talking about water, or maybe lack thereof. As you know, McAllen and the entire state are experiencing a drought, and of course McAllen always looking for ways to be water smart and conserve our natural resource. Joining us now to talk more about how we can do that is Roel Rodriguez. He's our General Manager of the McAllen Public Utility. Mr. Rodriguez, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So how can people be water smart? We've seen our reservoir levels at Falcon Dam dropping because of the lack of rain. How can we conserve our natural resource?
Well, first let me say thank you for having us here again. And I'd like to talk more generally about what we've seen throughout the state of Texas. You hear it in the news every night, you read it in the internet and so on. And you know, this drought's been going on now for over a year, 18 months or so of real drought. And the way it impacts us here in the Rio Grande Valley, and specifically here in McAllen, is that as the reservoirs continue to go down, the water supply that we rely on up and down the valley dwindles. And so it's a direct impact to the entire Rio Grande Valley. And so, you know, it's just prudent for the city of McAllen, along with all of our sister cities up and down the valley, to practice conservation. In McAllen, it's something that we talk about year-round. The level of the reservoirs don't dictate our want and need to educate our public that conservation is something that we just have to live with.
All right, there's a lot of simple things that people can do at their home to conserve water. I mean, you could take shorter showers, you could not leave the water running when you're brushing your teeth. Just a lot of little simple things that people can do right at home, right?
There really are, and you know, you can get that information from our water education specialist here in the city of McAllen that's out in the community. Really all you've got to do is call us and she'll go out to your school, to your organization, and have a presentation. There are a lot of small things you can do, as you just mentioned. Our focus is going to be the bigger picture, and that is, you know, what you do at your home as it pertains to irrigation. The McAllen Public Utility made a decision this week to change the stage that we're in, and that's really what we want to talk to our citizens about. We believe that there's a way to continue to ensure that your vegetation grows and is alive and is green and conserve. And that's what we'd like to talk about today.
All right, and you mentioned the PUB's decision, and that was to go from stage 1 water conservation, which is voluntary, to mandatory stage 2. Can you get into detail about what that exactly means?
You know, the last time that we were on stage 2 was approximately 8 years ago. And you know, we had just come out of another drought, and there are certain things that trigger our stages of conservation. One of them is the levels of the reservoir. And so when the reservoirs were on their way up back then, we went back to stage 1, which is voluntary. Well, on Tuesday of this week, the McAllen Public Utility, after much discussion and thought, really for the last 6 months, we concluded that the best, most prudent, responsible thing to do right now is to implement stage 2, even though the reservoirs are still right at 40%, and to do the mandatory conservation in our city.
All right, we're not trying to alarm anyone, obviously, but we just want them to conserve. And the city is basically broken down into 6 zones, right? Where people have designated watering days to irrigate, right?
Right. We're going to be sending out some information here in the very near future. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to send them out on their water bills. We're going to put it on Channel 12, on the internet, and put it on our social media, and basically describe what that means. The most important thing for our citizens to remember is that they are going to have designated days depending on where they live in the city of McAllen. Like you said, there's 6 zones in the city, which we will send a map to every account holder. And that's the most important part of conservation that you should remember, and that is, what day of the week am I allowed to water and at what time? So it's not only, say for a zone that's going to be on Tuesday and Friday, you will only be able to irrigate your lawn from 6 p.m. to midnight, or from midnight to 10 a.m. And so that's the window that you are allowed to water on those 2 days.
And that's done for a reason, right? Because during the hot daylight time, that's when the water evaporates, right? And so that's wasteful. So
that's true. And you know, we should do that all the time. Not only to conserve our precious resource of water, but really to save money on an individual basis. When you water your yard, no matter what time of the year it is or how much water is behind the dam, it only makes sense to do it when evaporation is the least. If you do it right now, for instance, at 1:45 in the afternoon, and you have the sun right above you and low humidity, that's just wasteful. And forget about not only wasting the commodity that we're trying to save, but you're wasting your money by doing so.
Exactly. All right, so they can find all of this information on our websites. There's other restrictions on Stage 2 as it relates to washing your car and other things, but again, they can get all that information on McAllen.net.
That's right.
As you said, you're going to be mailing stuff out.
That's right, and that's one of the things that you got to remember. We're used to in the valley, you know, from just growing up here, to washing your car in front of your yard. That's a great thing. You'll still be able to do it. However, you are not allowed to open your faucet and let that water run. You've got to make sure that you've got a mechanism at the end of your hose that's an automatic shutoff when you're not using it. And we will have folks out there patrolling the entire city. So we have decided, the Public Utility Board, that we're going into Stage 2. However, enforcement will start April the 1st. And so we've been talking about it now for about 6 months, Ray, here on your show. In the media, we've had probably every news channel in the valley come in to see us to discuss what Stage 2 means, and now it's here. And come April the 1st, there will be enforcement of Stage 2.
Meaning there could be citations if people are found not sticking to the ordinance, right?
That's right, and you know, we just don't want that to happen. We know it's going to happen from time to time, but that's not what we're after. We're not after the ticket. We're after compliance, and so we're going to put ourselves out there to ensure that our public understands what Stage 2 means and all of that good stuff.
Very good. Now, of course, if people have questions, they can always call the public utility and ask questions, right?
That's right. You can call our water plants, you can call administration, and we'll put the numbers out for you, for our public, so that we make ourselves available to them.
Got it. All right. We're at the Old Bowie Reservoir. I want to take this opportunity to ask you, we have a new reservoir now south of the airport, and there's still water in this one, so does this mean that we have more water for us?
That was a great project that the McAllen Public Utility undertook for a lot of reasons, and one was to see if we could develop this area. But that's a great project, you know. A reservoir hadn't been built in the Rio Grande Valley in a long, long time. That new reservoir is providing us about 300 million gallons of capacity versus about 175 here. And I've been asked out in the public, you know, well, you built a new one, you still have the old one, you know, why did you do that? Well, I think that we really have a unique situation, number one, because of what we want to do with this site, but it's a good thing. I mean, nobody can argue that the more reservoir that you have, the better. And so right now, we feel very good about the fact that we have Bowie Reservoir, we have the new one south of the airport, and we have another one on the north end of town that holds another 180 million gallons. So we've got a lot of storage. However, these are not the reservoirs that worry us. These are for immediate needs here in the city that'll provide us water anywhere from 5 to 8 days. The reservoirs that we talk about are the big reservoirs upstream of the Rio Grande, and that's Falcon and Amistad. So, you know, if anybody wants to go see, it's a beautiful place there in Falcon. Go take a look, and you'll see the difference in elevation of water today and where it was just a few years ago. And then maybe you'll understand a little bit more the situation we're in.
All right, very good. And I guess one final question is how long would Stage 2 conservation stay in place?
Well, we won't probably evaluate getting out of Stage 2 until those reservoirs are on their way up and probably past 40%. You know, who knows, Ray? It could be several months. It could be several years. We just don't know. And so, you know, in order for us to continue to be a prudent, responsible government, we've got to do what we've got to do, and that's what's right, and that is to go into conservation and ensure that our citizens help us, and not only the citizens of McAllen, the entire Rio Grande Valley. We're in constant communications right now with other cities of the valley. Not only many of our staff from the city and the PUB, and we're making ourselves available. Some smaller cities in the Rio Grande Valley don't have the resources that we have, and so we're making ourselves available to ensure that we can do whatever we can for any one of those.
Mr. Rodriguez, how safe is our water supply here in McAllen?
Well, again, we want to stress the importance of what the situation is in the entire Rio Grande Valley. Luckily for the city of McAllen, you know, we're about as good a shape as we can be. We've always talked about the fact that now we have 3 reservoirs. We also have 3 irrigation districts that supply water to our reservoirs that in turn goes to our water plants. So we have redundancy and safety that most other cities don't have. And you know, we're very blessed to have been able to do that through the years. Folks way before you and me understood how important redundancy was. And so we've been making improvements to our system ever since. And that redundancy means that if there's any issue with one canal or even 2, we've got an alternative to ensure that we provide water to our citizens. And that's the most important thing.
Very good. All right. Once again, we want to ask people to conserve and get familiar with Stage 2. And again, if they have any questions, they can call McAllen Public Utility.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Mr. Rodriguez, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And as always, we thank you for watching. I'm Ray Pedraza, and this is the McAllen Cable Network.